The air in Seoul District Court, Room 7, tasted like metal and consequence. Han Jin walked through those heavy wooden doors like he owned the oxygen itself. Black suit tailored so tight it could have been painted on. Cufflinks catching light like knives. Hair slicked back in that old money way that screamed new money desperation. To the public? CEO of Gene Shipping. The logistics king who moved cargo across Asia like he was playing a video game. To the whispers in smoke-filled rooms across Itaewon, something darker. On his arm hung Park Yuna. Pale cream dress. Baby bump displayed like a trophy. Gold earrings swinging with every calculated step. She moved slow, deliberate. Someone who knew every eye in the room was on her and fed off it like fuel. The gallery erupted in hisses. That's the mistress? Pregnant. In court. Anjin's mout kurva. Not quite a smile. More like a predator tasting blood before the bite. At the plaintiff's table sat Leanna. Black blazer. White blouse. Hair pulled back, so tight it looked painful. Compared to Yuna's shimmer, Anna looked plain. Forgettable, even. But if you watched her eyes, really watched, you'd see something that didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just calculated. Beside her, C.O. Jean. The lawyer other lawyers whispered about in bathroom stalls. The woman who turned untouchable men into defendants. She sat with her hands folded, posture perfect, face empty of anything you could read. Across the aisle, Kongmin shuffled thick folders with the bored confidence of someone who thought the ending was already written. Han Jin's lawyer. Expensive, arrogant, used to winning. At the front, Judge Choi slid into his seat. His face gave nothing. Not anger, not sympathy, just procedure. But on his desk, to his left, sat a simple envelope. Corner stamped, Biolabs. Only 2 people in that room knew what was inside. One was Judge Choi. The other was about to rip Han Jin's world in half. Have you ever watched someone walk into a trap they built themselves? That confidence, that swagger, that absolute certainty they're about to win. Han Jin adjusted his tie, leaned back, whispered something to Yuna that made her giggle. Soft, theatrical, perfectly timed for the gallery to hear. Anna didn't look at them. She looked at the envelope. The bailiff barked, "All rise." Chairs scraped. Bodies stood. The room held its breath. Judge Choi opened a file, flipped one page, then another. The rustle of paper sounded like thunder. "Mr. Han," he said, voice flat. "I see you brought a guest." Han Jin stood, all charm now. Shoulders back. Smile bright. "Yes, Your Honor. This is Park Yuna, my fiancée, mother of my son." He placed a hand on his chest like he was taking an oath. "Much of what we discussed today determines his future. I thought it appropriate she be here." The gallery murmured again, louder this time. Anna's jaw tightened. Just barely. Just enough. C.O. Jin's voice cut through the noise like a scalpel. Calm. Surgical. "Your Honor, since the defendant has anchored his entire financial defense on the need to protect his heir, we felt it relevant to verify the premise is factual." Kongmin scoffed. Loud. Theatrical. "This is a divorce hearing, counselor, not a paternity circus." Judge Choi held up the envelope. "The court granted the plaintiff's motion for independent verification," he said. "No emotion, just procedure. The defendant complied as required. The results have been received." For the first time that morning, Han Jin's easy confidence flickered. A crease formed between his brows. Then smoothed. He forced a laugh. "Of course. I have nothing to hide, Your Honor. If it makes everyone comfortable." Judge Choi didn't wait for permission. He slipped a finger under the sealed edge. The soft rip of paper echoed louder than the gallery itself. He read, silently. "Face stone. 5 seconds. 10. Anna's fingers curled into her palm, nails biting skin. Anjin smilastaya fruzen. But his eyes? They started searching, scanning, looking for an exit that didn't exist. Judge Choi looked up. Mr. Han, he said quietly. This report indicates something unexpected. Silence swallowed the room whole. What do you think you found? 15 years earlier, there was no gene shipping, no glass towers, no media calling anyone a prince. There was just Han Jin, a kid from Itaewon with sharp fists and sharper instincts. He started running cigarettes on a scooter, knockoff watches, anything small enough to fit in a trunk, valuable enough to matter. The alleys taught him fast. Power wasn't in the goods. It was in the routes. Control the routes, control the money. Control the money, control everything. Winter 2010. A Pojamika stall near the subway station. Plastic tarps flapping in the wind. Cheap soju warming bodies against the cold. Han Jin sat hunched over tekbaki, cursing his crew for the third time that week. Another bust. Another patrol catching them in the same stupid spot. A voice beside him. You keep using the same route. He looked up. Leanna, scholarship student. Busan accent softening her Seoul Korean. Baggy sweater. Glasses slipping down her nose. Laptop bag slung over one shoulder like armor. Who asked you? He said. She shrugged. Ordered soup. Didn't look at him. Police patrols follow patterns. So do CCTV cameras. You're predictable. That's why you keep losing money. He stared. She pulled out a notebook. Drew 3 lines. Circled intersections. Mark times. Run this route instead, she said. Patrols shift at 11. Cameras refresh every 90 seconds. You'll have a 4-minute window here. She tapped the paper. And here. Why are you helping me? She finally looked at him, eyes sharp, tired, honest. Because I hate inefficiency. He used her route the next night. 0 problems. A week later, he found her at the same stall. Handed her an envelope. Cash. She pushed it back. I don't need your money. Then what do you need? She stirred her soup. Rent's due next week. And my laptop's dying. He paid her rent. Bought her a new laptop. Within a month, she wasn't just fixing routes. She was designing them. She saw patterns in everything. Subway flows. Traffic lights. Customer demand spikes. While Han Jin handled the bosses, the muscle, the threats, Anna turned chaos into science. By the time the gangs needed someone who understood logistics and could make dirty money look clean, his name rose to the top. And beside him, always, Anna. She coded their first routing system on that laptop in a 1-room apartment. Radiator broken. Windows fogged. Fingers numb. Eyes bloodshot. He'd come home smelling like cigarette smoke and danger. She'd look up from her screen, exhausted, and ask, did it work? Every time, he'd say. She'd nod. Go back to typing. Gene Shipping was born in that apartment. A legitimate logistics company. A clean face over a dirty spine. They got married quietly. Small hall. Plastic chairs. Cheap flowers. He wore a borrowed suit. She wore a white dress from a rental shop. He whispered a promise in her ear that night. Once we're untouchable, we leave the streets behind. She believed him. For a while, it looked like he believed it too. Would you have trusted him? The 1-room apartment in Itaewon smelled like instant noodles and ambition. Anna sat cross-legged on the floor, laptop balanced on a low table. The screen's blue glow carved shadows under her eyes. Around her, scattered papers. Half-empty coffee cups. A single desk lamp fighting against 3 a.m. darkness. Han Yin passive. Phone pressed to his ear. Voice low. I don't care what he wants. We move the shipment Thursday or we lose the contract. He hung up. Looked at Anna. Can you make it work? She didn't look up. fingers flying across keys. If I reroute through Busan instead of Incheon and stagger the trucks by 30-minute intervals, yes. How confident? 92%. Not 100. Nothing's 100. She finally met his eyes. But this is close. He crouched beside her. Watch code scroll across the screen like a foreign language. You really see all this? Routes, times, risks. It's just math, she said. Everything's math if you look close enough. To me, it's magic. She almost smiled. Then let me be the magician. The algorithm she built wasn't just smart. It was surgical. It calculated optimal delivery windows based on traffic patterns, weather forecasts, patrol schedules. It masked financial flows by splitting transactions across shell accounts that appeared, moved money, then dissolved like smoke. To the outside world, Jean's shipping looked clean, professional, efficient. To the underworld, it was the safest way to move anything. Investors came calling, legitimate ones. Han Jin met them in hotel conference rooms wearing suits and a picked out. He'd pitch expansion, growth, vision. They'd ask about logistics infrastructure. He'd smile. Our proprietary system handles that. What he didn't say, Anna wrote that system. Every line, every function, every fail-safe. When incorporation papers were drawn up, buried in the legal language was a single clause Anna insisted on. The routing protocol is licensed technology, she told the lawyer. Not sold. Licensed. What's the difference? Han Jin asked. A sale is permanent, she said. A license can be revoked. He laughed, kissed her forehead, always thinking 10 steps ahead. Someone has to. The company exploded. Within 2 years, Jean Shipping had contracts across South Korea, Manila, Hong Kong. Revenue climbed from millions to tens of millions. Han Jin hired staff, opened offices, bought his first real suit, not borrowed, not rented. Anna stayed in the back, upgrading systems, fixing bugs, making sure the machine never stopped. Late nights became normal. Exhaustion became baseline. He'd find her asleep at the desk, head on her arms, laptop still running. He'd carry her to bed, whisper, "We're almost there." She'd murmur, half asleep, "Where?" "Somewhere safe." But safety, she'd learn, was just another word for comfortable enough to betray. If someone built everything you had, would you remember to thank them? The Gangnam penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows. From the 42nd floor, Seoul looked like a circuit board. Lights, patterns, order. Anna stood at the glass, coffee in hand, watching the Han River cut through the city like a vein. Behind her, the apartment gleamed. Marble counters, leather furniture. Art she didn't choose hanging on walls she didn't paint. Everything expensive, nothing hers. Han Jin stepped out of the bedroom, adjusting gold cufflinks. Hair perfect, suit sharper than anything he'd worn in Itaewon. He smelled like cologne that cost more than their first month's rent. "You're not dressed," he said. "Dressed for what?" "The investor dinner. I told you last week." She turned. "You told your assistant to tell me." "Same thing." "It's not." He sighed, checked his watch. "Anna, I don't have time for me." Silence. He softened his voice. "Put on that smile. You know what I mean. Tonight's important. Expansion to Singapore. 1 billion contracts. I need you there." "As what?" "Decoration. As my wife." She heard the way he said it. Flat. Procedural. Like checking a box. "I'll get dressed," she said. At the dinner, she sat beside him at a table that could have fed 50. Investors in tailored suits. Wives in designer dresses. Laughter that sounded rehearsed. A man across the table leaned forward. "Chairman Han, your logistics model is remarkable. Who designed the routing system?" Han Jin didn't miss a beat. "We have an excellent team." Anna's fingers tightened on her wine glass. Team, the man pressed. Surely someone led development. Collaborative effort, Han Jin said smoothly. That's how we operate. Together. Later, in the car ride home, she finally spoke. You didn't mention my name. What? At dinner. Well, he asked about the system. You said team. Han Jin kept his eyes on the road. It's better that way. Better for who? For the company. Investors want to believe in leadership. One vision. If I start talking about code and algorithms, their eyes glaze over. So you let them think it's yours. It's ours, Anna. The company's ours. She turned to the window. Watched Soul blur past. When did I become the wife you don't introduce anymore? He didn't answer. By the time Seoul News ran their cover story, Prince of the Ports, the man connecting Asia, Han Jin had done 50 interviews, magazine covers, podcast features, conference keynotes. Anna's name appeared once. In the acknowledgments, buried at the end, to my wife, for her support. Support. As if she'd handed him coffee while he built empires. As if she hadn't written every line of code that made those empires possible. She saved the article, put in a drawer, didn't throw it away. Not yet. Some things you keep as evidence. Some things you keep as reminders of exactly when the lie began. Have you ever been erased by someone you built? The rooftop bar called Top Floor floated above Gangnam like a glass ship made of money and lies. Park Eunice stood at the entrance in a red dress that cost more than most people's monthly salary. Heels sharp enough to draw blood. Hair cascading in waves that looked effortless but took 2 hours to perfect. 300,000 followers on social media. A face that photographed like porcelain. A laugh that turned heads from across the room. She knew exactly what she was. And she knew exactly who Han Jin was before he walked through that door. The brand consultant title was theater. Everyone knew it. She advised nothing, consulted on less. But she attended the right parties, smiled at the right men, and made powerful people feel like gods when she touched their arm. Han Jin spotted her at the bar, alone, sipping champagne. The way she held the glass, delicate, expensive, made it look like art. Chairman Han, she said without turning. I was wondering when you'd notice me. He moved beside her. Close. Hard not to. Your wife didn't come tonight? She doesn't enjoy these events. Eunice's smile curved. Pity. I would have loved to meet the woman who built your empire. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise. Then irritation. I built Gene Shipping, he said. Of course. She touched his wrist. Just barely. That's what I meant. Across the room, in a corner booth that swallowed shadows, Yoon-tae watched. He'd been with Han Jin almost as long as Anna. The quiet one. The efficient one. Officially, Chief Operating Officer. Unofficially, the man who coordinated everything Han Jin couldn't say out loud. Bribes delivered in unmarked envelopes. Threats made in parking garages. Shipments that never appeared on manifests. Yoon-tae knew every ledger entry, every offshore account, every dirty secret that kept Gene Shipping profitable. And he knew something Han Jin had forgotten. Loyalty has a price. For years, he'd swallowed his pride. Watched Han Jin take credit for strategies Yoon-tae designed. Stood beside him in photos while media called Han Jin visionary and Yoon-tae associate. He told himself it was temporary. Told himself he'd get his due. But men like Han Jin don't share thrones. So when Park Yuna's eyes flicked toward him from across the bar, just once, just enough, he understood. She wasn't here for love. She was here for leverage. 3 weeks later, they met in a private room. Same bar, different conversation. He trusts you more than anyone, Eunice said, swirling wine in her glass. Why are you still under him? Yoon-tae said nothing. You coordinate everything. Handle the risks. Clean up his mistakes. She leaned forward. What does he give you? A title? A salary? Enough. Enough, she repeated. Is that what you tell yourself when he's on magazine covers and you're in the shadows? His jaw tightened. I'm bored, Eunice said, and you're undervalued. We could fix both problems. How? She smiled. By giving him exactly what he wants and taking everything he has. Would you trust someone who approaches you with betrayal already on their lips? 7 years before Han Jin walked into room 7, there was a clinic in Itaewon that specialized in discreet appointments and cash payments. Dr. Song ran it. Middle-aged, kind eyes, the type of doctor who treated patients like people instead of paperwork. Leanna sat in the waiting room, hands folded in her lap. Around her, couples avoiding eye contact. Magazines nobody read. A clock ticking too loud. She and Han Jin had been trying for a baby for over a year. At first, they blamed stress. Long hours. Bad diets. Sleeping on floors while building the company. But months turned into seasons. Seasons turned into silence. We should get tested, Anna said one night. Han Jin looked up from his phone. Tested? Just to know. So we're not guessing. He hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But somewhere quiet. That's how they ended up at Dr. Song's clinic. Somewhere that didn't ask questions. Didn't keep records anyone could find. They went together for the first appointment. Blood drawn. Samples collected. Results scheduled for 2 weeks later. The night before their follow-up, a fire broke out at the port. Not an accident. Rival crew. Territory dispute. Shipments worth millions going up in smoke. Han Jin's phone exploded with calls. Threats. Demands. I have to go, he said, grabbing his jacket. Anna looked at the clock. The appointment's in 4 hours. You go. You can explain it to me later. They're just results. He kissed her forehead. Ran out the door. She went alone. The waiting room felt colder without him. She clutched his handkerchief for comfort. Something to hold while the clock ticked down. Dr. Song's nurse called her name. But when Anna entered the office, Dr. Song wasn't there. I'm so sorry, the nurse said. Dr. Song was called into emergency surgery. He won't be available until tomorrow. Anna's heart sank. What about the results? The nurse checked her computer. Only one set is ready, the male fertility workup. But legally, we can't disclose it without the patient present. I'm his wife. I understand. But the law's clear. He'll need to come in himself. Anna left with an envelope marked Leanna, female fertility panel. Her results. Normal. Healthy. No issues. The other envelope, Han Jin, male fertility panel, stayed locked in Dr. Song's office. She went home. Waited. Han Jin came back at 3 a.m., smelling like smoke and exhaustion. How'd it go? He asked. Dr. Song wasn't there. They only had my results. And I'm Fine. He nodded. Good. We'll get mine next week. But next week, another crisis hit. Then another. Then another. Han Jin never went back. Anna reminded him once. Twice. Then stopped. Somewhere in his mind, he rewrote the story. The test had been fine. There was no problem. Fate just needed time. By the time Jin's shipping became an empire, he'd forgotten Dr. Song entirely. Anna did not. She kept the appointment card, tucked in a drawer. A small piece of paper with a phone number and a date. Insurance, she told herself. Though against what? She didn't yet know. Have you ever held on to something small because you knew someday it would matter? 6 months before room 7. 6 months before the envelope. 6 months before everything shattered. Anna stood outside top floor in the rain. She hadn't planned to come. Hadn't planned to surprise him. But the apartment felt too empty. Too silent. And some part of her, stupid, desperate, hopeful, thought maybe if she showed up, he'd remember. Remember her. Remember them. The hostess at the entrance looked her up and down. Anna's jacket, Plain. Hair pulled back. No muck-up. No scene. I'm here for Chairman Han's party, Anna said. The hostess hesitated. Then check her tablet. Your name? Leanna. His wife. Recognition flickered. Then something worse. Pity. Right this way. The private room glowed gold. Warm light. Expensive whiskey. Laughter that sounded like money changing hands. The hostess reached for the door handle. Anna stopped her. Wait. Through the frosted glass, she could see silhouettes. Hear voices. His voice. If we're going to list internationally, we can't have her holding shares. Anna's hand froze on her purse. Another voice. Male. Older. You're talking about your wife. I'm talking about dead weight. Anjin stuna. Casual. Confident. The way you discuss trimming a budget. We cut her out now, before the valuation spikes. Offer her a settlement. Send her back to Busan Beach to cry on the sand. Laughter. Then a woman's voice. Light. Playful. Yuna. And if she fights? Hanjin's laugh came easy. She won't. Anna hates confrontation. She still thinks this is a love story. The laughter grew louder. Anna's breath caught. The hostess reached for the door again. Mom. Anna stepped back. I forgot something. In the car. She turned. Walked. Didn't run. Didn't cry. Through the restaurant. Past tables filled with couples. Past waiters carrying champagne. Past mirrors that reflected a woman she barely recognized. Outside, the rain hit like a baptism. Cold. Sharp. Real. She stood on the curb, letting it soak through her jacket. Hair plastered her face. Mascara running in black rivers. People passed with umbrellas. A few glanced. Most didn't. In that moment, she felt it. The exact second hurt turns into something else. Not anger. Not yet. Clarity. He'd said it out loud. Dead weight. Busan Beach. Love story. Like she was a problem. A loose end. Something to manage. A cab pulled up. Driver leaned out. Need a ride? She got in. Gave him the address. At home, she sat at her desk. Didn't change clothes. Didn't dry her hair. Just opened her laptop. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. She navigated to encrypted backups of Gene Shipping's source code. File she'd written. System she'd built. Intellectual property buried in legal documents nobody read. Then she opened a search bar and typed one name, CEO Gene. Attorney, Gangnam, known for destroying men who thought they were untouchable. Anna read reviews. Case histories. Wins that shouldn't have been possible. CEO Gene doesn't lose, one article said. She doesn't fight fair. She fights to end you. Anna picked up her phone, stared at the number on the screen. Outside, rain hammered against windows. Thunder rolled across the city. Lightning turned the skyline white for a fraction of a second. She pressed call. It rang once. Twice. A voice answered. Calm. Professional. CO Gene Law. How can I help you? Anna's voice came out steady. Colder than she expected. I need to destroy someone, she said. And I need to do it legally. Silence on the other end. Then, when can you come in? Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Bring everything. Anna hung up. She sat in the dark. Laptop open. Rain falling. Thunder shaking the glass. For the first time in years, she didn't feel small. She felt precise. Have you ever had to choose between forgiving someone or protecting yourself? CO Jin's office didn't try to impress you. It just did. 15th floor. Gangnam. Windows overlooking the river. Walls lined with books nobody bought for decoration. These were read, highlighted, annotated. CO Gene sat behind a glass desk that reflected nothing but purpose. Late 30s. Suit tailored like armor. Hair pulled back so tight it could cut. No jewelry except a single watch that cost more than most cars. Anna entered carrying a leather folder. Inside, printouts, USB drives, appointment cards, years of evidence she didn't know she'd been collecting. Co. Jean gestured to the chair across from her. Seat. Anna sat. Tell me everything, Co. Jean said. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. So Anna did. The Pojamaka stall in Itaewon. The routing algorithms. The one-room apartment. Jean shipping rising from code she wrote on a dying laptop. The Gangnam penthouse. The media calling him a prince. Her name disappearing from conversations. Park Yuna. Top floor. The private room. His voice saying deadweight. Co. Jean didn't interrupt. Didn't take notes. Just listened. When Anna finished, silence filled the room. Then Co. Jean leaned forward. What do you want? I want him to feel what I felt. That's revenge. I don't do revenge. Co. Jin's eyes sharpened. You do distraction. Legally. Permanently. So tell me, what do you actually want? Anna met her gaze. I want my life back. I want what I built. Co. Jin's lips curved. Not quite a smile. More like satisfaction. Then we don't go after him like a betrayed wife, she said. We go after him like a co-founder who's owed. She pulled out a notepad. Drew 2 columns. You have 2 weapons, Co. Jean said. First, you built the system. If we can prove that legally, prove ownership, prove intellectual property, Jean shipping doesn't exist without you. Anna nodded. Second, he's arrogant. Co. Jean tapped the notepad. Men like Han Jin always overplay their hand. They think their confidence is armor. It's not. It's a target. How do we use that? We let him think he's winning. Co. Jin's voice dropped. We build a trap so perfect he walks into it smiling. Anna opened her folder. Slid documents across the desk. These are incorporation papers, she said. Buried in the legal language. Page 47, Clause 12. The routing protocol is listed as licensed technology. Not sold. Licensed. Co. Jean picked up the document. Read. Her eyes widened slightly. The only emotion Anna had seen from her. You wrote this clause? I insisted on it. Years ago, I told Han Jin a license could be revoked if needed. Does he remember? No. Co. Jean set the paper down. This is a kill switch. Can we use it? We could do better than use it. We can make it the foundation of your case. Co. Jean leaned back. But we need more. We need financial trails. We need his weaknesses exposed. We need him humiliated before we take the company. Anna pulled out another envelope. I kept an appointment card from a fertility clinic. 7 years ago. Co. Jean took it, examined it. Why does this matter? Anna explained. The missed appointment. Dr. Song. The results Han Jin never collected. If he's claiming he needs to protect an heir, Anna said slowly, what happens if we prove the heir isn't his? Co. Jean went very still. Then she smiled. Actually smiled. Now we have a plan. Ready to watch someone architect their own revenge? The money always tells the truth. Co. Jin's investigator was a woman named Kim Hai-rin, former forensic accountant. The kind who could trace a single one through 17 shell companies across 8 countries. She worked in a basement office in Mapo. No windows, just screens glowing green with spreadsheets and transaction histories. Anna sat beside her, watching numbers scroll past. Here, Hai-rin said, tapping the screen. Monthly deposit, 50 million won. Sent from Jean Shipping's consulting budget to an account registered under the name Park Yuna. Anna leaned closer. What's it listed as? Brand Strategy Services. She doesn't provide services. Correct. Hai-rin clicked through more files. But look at this. Same month, a luxury condo in Cheongdam registers under her name. Purchase price? 400 million won. Down payment? Exactly 50 million. Anna's jaw tightened. Hyrin kept going. Car lease. Designer shopping accounts. Private jet charters to Jeju. All billed to consulting fees that don't exist. She pulled up another screen. And here's where it gets interesting. A web of transactions appeared. Lines connecting accounts like veins. These payments, Hyrin said, tracing one line with her finger, funnel through a company called Sunrise Holdings. Registered in the Caymans. 0 employees. 0 physical address. Who owns it? Hyrin smiled. Officially? A law firm that specializes in anonymous corporate structures. Unofficially, she clicked again. A signature appeared. This authorization was signed by Yoon Tae. Anna's breath caught. He's been moving money offshore for 2 years, Hyrin said. Small amounts. Nothing that triggers audits. But it adds up. How much? 3 billion won. Give or take. Anna stared at the screen. 3 billion. Enough to disappear. Enough to start over somewhere far from Han Jin's reach. Seo Jin entered the office carrying coffee. What do we find? Hyrin turned the monitor. A conspiracy. Seo Jin studied the web of transactions. Her expression didn't change. But her eyes? They sharpened like knives. Yoon Tae in Park Yuna, she said quietly. They're not just having an affair. They're bleeding him dry. Anna finally spoke. Can we prove it? Every transaction leaves a scar, Hyrin said. I'm building a map. By the time we're done, we'll have their entire operation documented. Seo Jin set her coffee down. Document everything. Dates, amounts, signatures. We'll need it airtight. She looked at Anna. Your husband thinks he's the shark. He doesn't realize he's swimming with piranhas. What would you do if you discovered the people closest to you were robbing you blind? Dr. Song didn't look like a man who held explosive secrets. He looked tired, older, the kind of doctor who'd spent too many years watching people lie to themselves. Seo Jin found him at a small clinic in Itaewon. Same neighborhood, different building. The original location had closed 5 years ago. Dr. Song, Seo Jin said, entering his office. He looked up from paperwork. Can I help you? I'm an attorney. I represent Leanna. You treated her and her husband 7 years ago. His face shifted, memory surfacing. Anna. Yes, I remember her. Do you remember Han Jin? Dr. Song's expression darkened. He never came back for his results. That's why I'm here. Seo Jin sat across from him, pulled out a folder. I need to know what those results said. Dr. Song hesitated. Patient confidentiality is waived when records are subpoenaed in a legal case. She slid a court order across his desk. The court has authorized release of Han Jin's medical records pertaining to fertility testing conducted at your clinic. Dr. Song read the document. Sighed. Wait here. He disappeared into a back room. Returned 10 minutes later, carrying a manila envelope yellowed with age. He opened it, pulled out a single sheet. Han Jin, he said slowly, presented with what we call congenital bilateral absence of the vas deferens, a condition where the tubes that carry sperm are either missing or obstructed from birth. Seo Jin leaned forward. Meaning, Dr. Song said, natural conception is nearly impossible. Without medical intervention, IVF with surgically extracted sperm, he cannot father a child. Silence. You're certain? The test was definitive. We ran it twice to confirm. Dr. Song looked at the report. I tried to reach him. Left messages. He never returned my calls. Did Anna know? No. She came alone for her appointment. I couldn't legally disclose his results without him present. He rubbed his temples. I assumed they pursued fertility treatments elsewhere. I didn't know. Didn't know what? That he just forgot. Seo Jin took the report. May I have a copy? Dr. Song nodded. Printed one. Signed it. Stamped it with his clinic seal. One more question, Co Jean said. If a woman claims Han Jin, father or child, what would you say? Dr. Song met her eyes. I'd say she's lying, or she doesn't know the truth. But biologically, it's impossible. Co Jean stood, extended her hand. Thank you, doctor. He shook it. Is Anna all right? She will be. Outside the clinic, Co Jean called Anna. We have it, she said. The report. Signed. Stamped. Definitive. If Han Jin claims he needs to protect his heir, we can prove, in court with medical evidence, that the heir cannot exist. Anna's voice came through steady. What happens next? We file a motion for paternity verification. Bury it in routine paperwork so his lawyer doesn't flag it. Han Jin's too arrogant to refuse. He'll sign off thinking it proves his case. And when the results come back, Co Jin's voice dropped. His entire defense collapses. In front of the judge, in front of the gallery, in front of the woman carrying someone else's child. Anna was quiet for a long moment. Do it, she said. Co Jin smiled. Consider it done. Ever watch someone hand you the weapon that will destroy them? 3 months before the courtroom. A private suite at the Shilla Hotel. Curtains drawn. City lights bleeding through fabric. Park Yuna sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, scrolling through her bank account. Rent, overdue. Credit cards, maxed. Designer bags, pawned. The influencer life looked golden on camera. Behind the filter, debt compounding like interest on bad decisions. A knock at the door. She checked the peephole. Yon Dai. Alone. She opened the door. He entered without speaking. Suit perfect. Face unreadable. You said you had a proposal, he said. Yuna closed the door. Locked it. How much does Han Jin pay you? Enough. That's what slaves say. She poured whiskey. 2 glasses. Handed him one. You coordinate every operation. Clean every mess. Manage every risk. And he calls you his right hand like it's a gift. Yoon-tae didn't drink. Why am I here? Because you're tired, Eunice said. Tired of being second. Tired of watching him take credit. Tired of knowing you'll never be more than a shadow. His jaw tightened. She moved closer. I checked. Jean shipping's worth 20 billion won on paper. Probably more off the books. Han Jin controls it all. You get salary, benefits, a title that means nothing. What do you want? Same thing you want. She sipped her whiskey. Out. With enough money to disappear. And how do we get that? Yuna set her glass down. I'm pregnant. Yoon-tae's expression didn't change, but his fingers tightened on the glass. Not his, she continued. Obviously, but he doesn't know that. He thinks he's invincible, fertile, capable of everything. You're planning to trap him. I'm planning to leverage him. Difference. She sat on the armrest beside him. Think about it. Pregnant mistress. Public humiliation. His wife suing. He'll do anything to protect his image. Anything to prove he's still in control. Including settlements, payouts, hush money. Her voice dropped. Million. Split between us. Yoon-tae finally looked at her. Why me? Because you have access. You know where every account is. Every shell company. Every offshore dollar. She leaned closer. And because you hate him as much as I'm bored of him. Silence stretched between them. This is dangerous, Yoon-tae said. Everything worth having is. If he finds out, he won't. Men like Han Jin don't see betrayal coming. They think loyalty is automatic. They think people owe them forever. She touched his wrist. We give him a story. We play our roles. And when the dust settles, we vanish. Yon Daestund walked to the window, stared out at Seoul's glittering skyline. How far along? He asked. 8 weeks. When will you tell him? Next week. At top floor. In front of people. So he can't react. So he has to smile and play the proud father. Yoon-tae turned, and the paternity blood tests take time. By the time anyone thinks to question it, we'll have what we need. He studied her. This woman with perfect hair and calculated smiles and debts she hid behind filters. You're not doing this for love, he said. Neither are you. He almost smiled. No, I'm not. Then we have a deal. Yoon-tae finished his whiskey, set the glass down, extended his hand. We have a deal. They shook. Two people bound not by affection, but by ambition and exhaustion and the shared understanding that Han Jin had taken enough. Neither of them saw the third trap closing around them both. Neither of them knew Lee Anna was 10 steps ahead. Would you partner with someone who approached you with betrayal already perfected? The motion was filed on a Tuesday. Routine paperwork buried in 50 pages of legal procedure. Plaintiff's motion for independent biological verification in support of asset distribution claims. Kong Min, Han Jin's lawyer, received it by courier, skimmed it, tossed it in his approved pile. He'd seen 1,000 motions like this. Desperate wives trying to challenge everything. It never worked. They want a paternity test, he told Han Jin over lunch at a steakhouse in Cheongdam. Han Jin cut into his ribeye. For what? You claimed you need to protect your heir. They're asking the court to verify the child is yours. Kong Min waved his fork dismissively. Standard stalling tactic. They're hoping to embarrass you. Han Yin Lokit. Let them try. The baby's mine. You're sure. Yuna's 12 weeks pregnant. We've been together 6 months. The math is simple. Kong Min sipped his wine. Still, if we refuse, it looks like we're hiding something. If we comply, we shut down their argument immediately. Then comply. Get it done. Kong Min made a note. I'll authorize the test. Biolabs. Neutral third party. Results sealed until the hearing. Perfect. Han Jin leaned back. Let them waste their time. What he didn't know, CO Jin had chosen Biolab specifically, the same facility that maintained digital archives of old medical records. The same facility that had cross-referenced Han Jin's name with Dr. Song's clinic reports. The same facility that would run the paternity test knowing full well what the results would say before the sample was even collected. 2 weeks later, Han Jin sat in a sterile medical office while a technician swabbed his cheek. This is ridiculous, he muttered. The technician said nothing, just labeled the sample, sealed it, logged it into the system. When will we get results? Han Jin asked. Standard processing is 10 business days. Results will be delivered to the court directly. Han Yin stood, adjusted his jacket. This better be worth my time. The technician watched him leave, then pulled up the digital file, cross-referenced the name against archived fertility records from Dr. Song's clinic. Match confirmed. Subject, Han Jin. DOB, March 14th, 1985. Diagnosis, congenital bilateral absence of vas deferens. Natural conception, medically impossible. The technician attached the file to the paternity analysis, sent it to the lab director with a note, historical medical context relevant to case. 10 days later, the results printed. 2 pages. First page, paternity test. Probability of paternity, 0%. Biological father, excluded. Second page, medical history summary. Subject diagnosed with condition incompatible with natural conception. See attached archived report from Dr. Song, 2018. The documents were sealed in an envelope, stamped with Biolab's official seal. Delivered by courier to Seoul District Court. Received by Judge Choi's clerk. Filed under Lee Anave. Han Yin. Case number 2024 DV 8473. On her office computer, CO Jean received a notification. Documents filed. Biological verification results received. She didn't open the file. She already knew what it said. Instead, she called Anna. "It's done," CO Jean said. "The envelope is with the judge." Anna's voice was steady. "When?" "Courtroom. Next week. Room 7. Will he see it coming?" "Not until it's too late." Ever set a trap so perfect the prey walks in smiling? The night before Room 7, Anna couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk in the apartment, empty now except for furniture too heavy to move. Hanjin hadn't lived there in months. Moved in with Eunice somewhere in Cheongdam. Penthouse with a view he paid for with money she helped him earn. Her laptop glowed in the darkness. She opened old photos. Not because she missed him, because she needed to remember why she was doing this. Itaewon, Pojamika stall. His face younger. Her hair longer. Both of them laughing over cheap tteokbokki because they couldn't afford anything else. Another photo. Their wedding. Plastic chairs. Cheap flowers. His hand holding hers like she was the only real thing in his world. She remembered his promise. "Once we're untouchable, we leave the streets behind." She remembered believing him. Another photo. The one-room apartment. Her laptop on a low table. Code covering the screen. His hand on her shoulder while she worked through the night. She built everything. Every line. Every algorithm. Every system that made Jean shipping possible. And somewhere between the first million and the first magazine cover, he'd forgotten. Forgotten her name. Forgotten her contribution. Forgotten the woman who turned his street-running operation into a billion-won empire. Her phone buzzed. "CO Jean, tomorrow changes everything. Get some rest." Anna typed back. "Can't sleep." CO Jean, nervous? Anna stared at the question. Taip no. Excited. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. CO Jean good. That's the right feeling. Anna set her phone down. She walked to the window. Looked out at Gangnam's lights. Somewhere out there, Han Jin was sleeping. Confident. Comfortable. Certain tomorrow would go his way. He'd walk into room 7 with Yuna on his arm. Smile at the judge. Play the protective father. The misunderstood husband. The man who built an empire. He'd expect sympathy. Expect the court to see Anna as bitter. Jealous. Desperate. He didn't know about the envelope. Didn't know about Dr. Song. Didn't know about the license code he thought he owned. Didn't know that every move he'd made for the past 6 months had been predicted. Accounted for. Turned into a weapon. Anna picked up her phone. Scrolled to her messages with Han Jin. The last one was from 4 months ago. Him. Lawyer will contact you about settlement. Take it. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. She'd never responded. Tomorrow, she wouldn't need to. Tomorrow, the envelope would open. Tomorrow, his confidence would shatter in front of everyone. Tomorrow, she'd take back everything he stole, not with anger, but with precision. She closed the photos, shut her laptop, laid down in bed, stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come, but she didn't need it. She needed clarity, and she had plenty. When you've been erased, do you fight to be remembered, or do you rewrite the entire story? Judge Choi's fingers slid under the sealed edge of the biolab's envelope. The sound of paper tearing cut through room 7 like a blade through silk. Every eye locked on his hands. Every breath held. The gallery leaned forward as one organism, hungry for blood. Han Jin stood at his table, shoulders back, confident. Yuna beside him, one hand resting on her belly, strategic, visible, performing motherhood like a rehearsed scene. Across the aisle, Anna sat perfectly still. Only her fingers moved, curling slightly into her palm. Judge Choi pulled the documents from the envelope. 2 pages. He read the first one silently. His expression flattened. 5 seconds passed. 10. 15. Kongmin shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, if the results confirm. Judge Choi raised one hand. Silence crashed down. He looked up. Directly at Yin. Mr. Han, he said, voice measured clinical. This report from biolabs includes 2 components. First, the paternity test results. Second, archived medical records cross-referenced during analysis. Anjin's Sumila Babadat. Just slightly. A crack in marble. The paternity test, Judge Choi continued, indicates a 0% probability that you are the biological father of the child Ms. Park is carrying. The words landed like a grenade in a glass room. The gallery erupted. Gasps. Whispers exploding into shouts. 0%. Not his. Then whose? Officer Cho barked for order, voice booming, but the noise swelled anyway. Han Jin's face drained of color. That's impossible. There's been a mistake. Test again. Judge Choi's voice cut through the chaos. There is no mistake. The lab cross-referenced your sample against medical records from a fertility clinic you attended 7 years ago. He held up the second page. According to Dr. Song's archive diagnosis, you suffer from a congenital condition, bilateral absence of the vas deferens, that renders natural conception medically impossible without surgical intervention. The room went silent. Not the silence of anticipation. The silence of shock crystallizing into understanding. Han Yin staggered. One hand gripped the table edge. I don't have. His voice cracked. Broke. The confident CEO disappeared, replaced by something raw and exposed. Judge Choi's tone remained neutral. In simpler terms, Mr. Han, you're functionally sterile. You cannot father a child naturally. The medical evidence is definitive. Every head in the gallery swiveled toward Yuna. She sat frozen, sweat beading at her hairline, fingers clamped on her designer handbag like it was a life raft. Her carefully constructed performance shattered in real time. Ms. Park, Judge Choi said, his voice dropping into something harder. You will answer the court truthfully. Is Mr. Han the biological father of your unborn child? Silence stretched. Yuna's eyes darted, calculating, searching for an exit that didn't exist. Her gaze landed on the back row. Yuntae sat there, hands folded, face expressionless, watching her like she was a chess piece he'd already sacrificed. Something in her broke. Her shoulders dropped. The performance died. No, she whispered. Speak up, Ms. Park. No, she said louder. Flat. Defeated. He's not. The gallery exploded again. Cameras clicked. Reporters scribbled. Someone in the back shouted a question that got swallowed by noise. Han Jin turned to her, betrayal dawning in slow, agonizing clarity. Who? His voice barely a rasp. Who is it? Yuna didn't answer. She didn't need to. Yon Daistund buttoned his jacket with deliberate precision, walked down the center aisle, shoes clicking against tile in perfect rhythm. He stopped beside Yuna's chair, rested one hand lightly on the back. The gesture said everything. Han Jin stared at him. The man who'd been his right hand for 15 years. The man who coordinated his operations, protected his secrets, stood beside him through every deal. You? Hanyin Briatid. You were my brother. Yuntae's expression didn't change. Cold, efficient, done pretending. You were my ceiling, he said. You used my work, my risk, my hands, and took every ounce of credit. I didn't betray you, Han Jin. I just stopped being your servant. Han Jin lunged forward. Officer Cho moved faster. Grabbed Han Jin's arm. Held it back. Sit down, Mr. Han. Judge Choi commanded. Han Jin collapsed in his chair, breathing hard, eyes wild. For the first time in 15 years, he looked small. Anna watched from across the room. Her face revealed nothing. But inside, vindication bloomed like fire. This was just the beginning. Have you ever watched someone's world collapse in real time? Yoon-tae remained standing, calm, unmoved by the chaos spiraling around him. Han Jin's voice came out strangled. How long? Does it matter? How long? Yoon-tae tilted his head slightly. 8 months. Maybe 9. Time blurs when you're planning an exit. Han Jin's hand shook. I trusted you. I gave you everything. You gave me scraps. Yoon-tae's tone stayed level. Clinical. A salary. A title that meant nothing. Credit for work you didn't understand. You paraded around like a visionary while I coordinated every shipment, every bribe, every threat that kept Jean shipping alive. I made you. You made yourself, Yoon-tae interrupted. Using Anna's code. My operations. Other people's risk. You're a figurehead, Han Jin. A face on a magazine. Nothing more. The words hit harder than fists. Kong Min tried to interject. Your Honor, this is beyond the scope. It's completely within scope, Co. Jean said, voice sharp as glass. The defendant based his entire asset claim on the premise that he must protect his heir. That premise is now proven false. But more importantly, she stood. It exposes a pattern of deception that extends to every aspect of this case. Judge Choi leaned forward. Explain. Co. Jean gestured toward Yoon-tae. Mr. Yoon coordinated financial transactions on behalf of Jean Shipping. We have evidence, documented, time-stamped, showing systematic transfers to offshore accounts, shell companies in the Caymans, ghost consulting fees, funds funneled through entities that don't exist. She pulled out a folder, slid it to the judge. 3 billion won, she said. Moved over 2 years. Authorized by Mr. Yoon. Received by Ms. Park through various fronts. Yoona's face went white. Your Honor, Co. Jean continued, this isn't a love affair. This is conspiracy to commit fraud. Mr. Yoon and Ms. Park weren't just betraying Mr. Han personally. They were systematically embezzling corporate assets. Yoon-tae's calm finally cracked. Just slightly. A tightness around his eyes. You can't prove. Every transaction leaves a trail, Co. Jean said. Your signatures are on every authorization. Your access codes unlocked every account. You were meticulous. Unfortunately for you, so was our forensic accountant. Judge Choi flipped through the documents. His expression darkened with each page. Mr. Yoon, he said quietly, you will remain in this courtroom. Bailiff, please ensure he doesn't leave. Officer Cho moved to the exit. Stood there, arms crossed. Yoon-tae's yov clenched. For the first time, fear flickered across his face. He thought he was playing Han Jin, bleeding him slowly, setting up an exit with millions in hand. He hadn't counted on Anna being 10 steps ahead. Hadn't counted on Co. Jean weaponizing every digital fingerprint he left behind. Hadn't counted on the trap closing around him while he thought he was setting one. Han Jin stared at Yoon-tae with something between rage and heartbreak. We started together. Itaewon, running packages, building this from nothing. You built nothing, Yoon-tae said. Anna built the system. I ran the operations. You just showed up and smiled. Then why stay? Why not leave years ago? Yoon-tae's voice dropped. Because I believed you. I believed we'd share eventually. I believed loyalty meant something. He laughed, bitter, hollow. But men like you don't share. You consume. So I decided to take what I was owed. By stealing, by surviving. Silence hung heavy. Judge Choi closed the folder. This court will refer these findings to the prosecutor's office for criminal investigation. Mr. Yoon, you're not to leave Seoul pending further inquiry. Yoon-tae said nothing. He just looked at Yuna. She looked away. Two people who'd conspired out of ambition and exhaustion, now realizing they'd gambled everything and lost. Anna watched them both. No satisfaction on her face. Just cold, clear purpose. They'd tried to rob Han-jin. She was about to take the entire empire. Ever realize you were never the smartest person in the room? Seo-jin didn't sit down. The paternity reveal had been the opening act. Yoon-tae's exposure, the second. Now came the finale. She pulled a USB drive from her briefcase, held it up so the gallery could see. "Your Honor," she said, voice carrying across the room with surgical precision. "While the defendant's personal humiliation is unfortunate, this case is not about infidelity or betrayal. It's about ownership." Han-jin looked up, confusion and rage warring on his face. "My client," Seo-jin continued, "has been erased from the narrative of gene shipping success. Media called her husband a visionary, a prince of industry, the architect of a logistics empire." She paused, let the words settle. But the truth is simpler. Han-jin didn't build gene shipping. Leanna did. Kong-min shot to his feet. "Objection. This is absurd. Gene shipping is registered under my client's name. He holds controlling shares." He fronted, Seo-jin said flatly. "He put his name on documents. Smile for cameras. Close deals. But the actual intellectual property, the routing algorithms, the encryption protocols, the entire digital infrastructure that makes gene shipping worth billions, was written by my client." She handed the USB drive to Judge Choi, along with a thick stack of printed documents. "These files," Seo-jin explained, "are time-stamped source code, digitally signed, backed up across multiple secure servers. Every algorithm, every protocol, all created by Leanna between 2010 and 2015. Judge Choi inserted the USB into his computer. "Scan the files." "Furthermore," Seo-jin continued, "the incorporation documents, page 47, clause 12, explicitly state that the routing protocol is licensed technology from a separate entity owned by Ms. Lee. Not sold, not transferred. Licensed." She let that word hang in the air. "Licensed," she repeated, "which means revocable." Han-jin's eyes widened. "You can't." "As of 7 a.m. this morning," Seo-jin said, voice sharpening, "my client formally revoked that license. Gene shipping no longer has legal authorization to use the core systems that run its operations." The gallery erupted again. Reporters typing frantically. Cameras flashing. Judge Choi held up a hand. "Ms. Seo, you're saying?" "I'm saying gene shipping is currently operating illegally. Without my client's consent, every shipment tracked, every route calculated, every transaction processed through her code is intellectual property theft." She stepped closer to the bench. "If Ms. Lee chooses to enforce this revocation, and she can, legally, immediately, gene shipping systems shut down within 24 hours. Trucks stop. Ships stall. Warehouses freeze. The company's operational value collapses to zero." Han-jin stood, voice desperate. "You'll destroy everything. The jobs. The contracts. Thousands of people depend on. Thousands of people depend on systems I created," Anna said. Her voice cut through the room. Quiet. Steady. Devastating. She stood slowly. Every eye turned to her. "For 15 years," she said, "you told me I didn't understand business. That I should be grateful. That I was just the wife." She looked directly at Han-jin. "You let media call you a genius while I debug code at 3 a.m. You signed deals using infrastructure I built while you slept. You took credit for every innovation, every optimization, every system that made gene shipping possible. Her voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. I never wanted to destroy gene shipping, she continued. I wanted to save it. From you. Silence pressed down like weight. Judge Choi studied the documents. Flipped through pages of code. Compared signatures. Timestamps. Legal clauses buried in incorporation paperwork nobody had read in years. Finally, he looked up. Ms. CEO, he said carefully, you're prepared to prove ownership of these systems? We have 15 years of documentation. Email chains where Mr. Han asked my client to fix the parts he doesn't understand. Meeting notes where he deferred to her technical expertise. Backup servers with her digital signatures on every major update. She placed one more document on the bench. And most importantly, CEO Jean said, we have the original license agreement, signed by both parties, explicitly stating that intellectual property remains with Leanna, with usage rights granted at her discretion. Judge Choi read the agreement, then looked at Han Jin. Mr. Han, he said quietly, did you understand what you signed? Han Jin opened his mouth, closed it. No words came. He'd signed without reading, trusted without verifying, assumed ownership because he always had. Now the ground beneath him turned to air. What happens when you realize you own nothing? Han Jin collapsed back in his chair, not physically broken. Worse, conceptually shattered. Everything he thought he owned, the company, the reputation, the empire, had been built on foundations that belonged to someone else. Someone he'd erased, dismissed, sent back to Busan Beach in his imagination like discarded luggage. Judge Choi removed his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose. This court, he said slowly, will recess for closed negotiations. Given the complexity of intellectual property claims and the potential operational impact on a major corporation, I'm ordering both parties to attempt resolution before proceeding to formal judgment. He looked at Han Jin, then at Anna. You have 2 hours. Conference room B. Work this out, or I'll make decisions neither of you will like. The gavel struck. Conference room B was small, sterile. A table, 8 chairs, fluorescent lights that hummed too loud. Anna sat on one side, CEO Jean beside her, Han Jin on the other, Kong Min beside him, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. For a long time, nobody spoke. Finally, CEO Jean broke the silence. Here are the terms, she said. No preambule, no negotiation theater, just facts. She slid a document across the table. Ms. Lee will grant Jean shipping a perpetual license to use her routing protocols and systems. In exchange, she ticked off points on her fingers. 1. Han Jin resigns immediately as CEO and chairman. No evidence. No equity retention beyond a minimal non-controlling stake. An Jin's Zhao Glansha. 2. Controlling shares transfer to Ms. Lee. She assumes leadership and rebrands the company under new management. 3. All assets acquired during the marriage undergo equitable distribution with consideration for Ms. Lee's intellectual contributions, valued at 60% of total enterprise worth. Kongman's pen stopped moving. 60%, conservative estimate, CEO Jean said. We can go to court and argue for 80. Your choice. Silence. Anna finally spoke. I don't want to destroy Jean shipping. I want to save it. But I won't save it with you still at the top. And Jean looked at her. Really looked. Maybe for the first time in years. This was always yours, he said quietly. Voice hollow. Wasn't it? Yes. And I just took it. You didn't take it. Anna's voice stayed level. I gave it to you. Because I loved you. Because I believed in us. Because you promised we'd build something together. She leaned forward. But somewhere between Itaewon and Gangnam, you forgot I existed. Forgot my name. Forgot that everything you stood on was built by someone you decided to erase. Han Jin's eyes glistened. Tears? Rage? Exhaustion? What if I fight this? He asked. Then you lose publicly, Co. Jin said. Intellectual property theft. Fraud. Embezzlement charges from Yoon Tae's actions under your watch. We'll drag every dirty deal into the light. You'll leave with nothing but legal bills and a reputation that's radioactive. She tapped the document. Where you sign. Walk away with dignity. Let the company survive under someone who actually built it. Gungmin leaned over, whispered urgently in Han Jin's ear. Han Jin closed his eyes, breathed, opened them. He picked up the pen. His hand shook. For a moment, Anna thought he might refuse, might flip the table, might fight just because he couldn't stand losing. But then he signed. 3 places. Initials on every page. He slid the document back to Co. Jin. Stood. Looked at Anna one last time. I'm sorry, he said. Anna said nothing. Because some apologies come too late. Some damage can't be undone with words. He walked out. The door closed behind him. Anna sat in silence. Co. Jin beside her. The signed document on the table. You did it, Co. Jin said quietly. Anna nodded. Yeah, I did. But victory tasted like ash and relief mixed together. She'd won. But the woman who started this fight in Itaewon was gone. Replaced by someone harder. Sharper. Changed by betrayal into something that couldn't be betrayed again. When you take back what's yours, does it feel like winning or just survival? 3 weeks after Room 7, the paperwork finalized. Anna sat in a glass-walled conference room on the 38th floor of Jean's shipping headquarters. Her headquarters now, outside the windows, Seoul stretched in every direction. Rivers, towers, roads threading through the city like veins. Co. Jin slid the final documents across the table. It's done. Controlling shares transferred. Board has ratified your appointment as CEO. The rebrand to New Dawn Incorporated goes live next Monday. Anna picked up the papers. Scanned them. Her name on every signature line. Leanna, Chief Executive Officer, New Dawn Inc. It felt surreal. Heavy, right? What about him? Anna asked. Han Jin signed the non-compete. He can't work in logistics for 5 years. Can't solicit clients. Can't disparage the company publicly. Co. Jin's expression stayed neutral. He kept a small cash settlement, enough to live on if he's careful. Nothing more. And the media? We released a statement this morning. Leanna, founding architect of Jean Shipping's proprietary systems, assumes leadership amid organizational restructuring. The company will continue operations under new management committed to transparency and innovation. Co. Jin leaned back. The business press is already running profiles on you. The silent architect, the woman who built an empire in the shadows. You're going to be everywhere. Anna stared out the window. I didn't do this for attention. I know, but you'll have it anyway. Use it wisely. A knock at the door. Anna's new assistant entered, a young woman named Minji with sharp eyes and organized energy. Ma'am, the executive team is ready for your first staff meeting. Anna nodded. Give me 5 minutes. Minji left. Co. Jin stood, gathered her files. You're going to be fine. Better than fine. You think so? I know so. You've been running this company from the shadows for 15 years. Now you're just doing it with your name on the door. Anna almost smiled. Thank you. For everything. Co. Jin extended her hand. They shook. If you ever need someone destroyed again, Co. Jin said, deadpan, you know where to find me. This time Anna did smile. I'll keep that in mind. After Co. Jin left, Anna sat alone for a moment. She opened her laptop, pulled up the old photos one last time. Itaewon, Pojamika stall, the cramped apartment. Her and Hanjin, young and hungry and certain they could build something that mattered. They had built something. She just had to take it back to make it real. Anna closed the photos, deleted them, emptied the trash. Some things you don't need to carry anymore. She stood, adjusted her blazer, checked her reflection in the window glass. Same face, different woman. She walked to the conference room, pushed open the door. 15 executives stood as she entered. The operations team she'd worked with for years, some who knew her role, some who didn't. She sat at the head of the table. "Good morning," she said. "I'm Liana. Some of you know me. Some of you are meeting me for the first time. Either way, we're going to start over." She opened her folder. New Dawn Incorporated operates on 3 principles: transparency, accountability, and recognizing the people who actually do the work. If you're here because you're good at your job, you'll thrive. If you're here because of connections or politics, you won't last. She looked around the table, met every pair of eyes. Questions, silence. Then one hand raised. The CFO, a man named Park who'd been with the company 6 years. What about the offshore accounts? The complicated transactions? Anna's voice stayed steady. "We're cleaning house. Everything questionable gets reviewed, restructured, or shut down. We operate legitimately, or we don't operate." Clear. Nods around the table. "Good. Let's get to work. What does it feel like to finally sit in the chair you built?" Yoontae didn't make it out of the courthouse. 2 plainclothes detectives waited outside room 7. Badges out, expressions flat. "Yoontae," the older one said. "Yes. You're under arrest for embezzlement, conspiracy to commit fraud, and money laundering. You have the right to remain silent." The words blurred together. Yoontae's hands were cuffed behind his back. Cold metal. Final. The gallery watched through the courthouse windows as he was led to an unmarked car. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions he didn't answer. Inside the car, he stared straight ahead. He'd planned for months. Moved 3 billion won. Set up shell companies. Arranged his exit to the Caymans where extradition was complicated and money could buy silence. He thought he was playing chess. Turns out, he was just another piece Anna sacrificed to expose Hanjin's world. The forensic accountant had tracked everything. Every signature, every authorization code, every wire transfer routing through entities that existed only on paper. Kim Hyrin had built a map so detailed prosecutors called it the blueprint for a masterclass in evidence gathering. Yoontae's lawyer told him later, "They have you on 16 counts. Documented proof on every single one. If you go to trial, you'll lose. Badly. What are my options? Plead guilty. Cooperate. Hope for reduced sentencing. How much time? 7 to 10 years. Maybe less with cooperation." Yoontae closed his eyes. 7 to 10 years. The same amount of time he'd spent building Gene Shipping's operations. The same years he'd believed loyalty would be rewarded. Park Yuna cut a deal faster. She testified against both Hanjin and Yoontae, gave prosecutors access to her bank records, text messages, emails detailing the conspiracy. In exchange, immunity from prosecution. No jail time. She'd have to return the money. Condos sold, cars repossessed, accounts frozen. But she'd walk away free. "I was manipulated," she told investigators, voice trembling with practiced vulnerability. "Yoontae convinced me Hanjin wanted a child. I didn't know about the medical condition. I thought I was helping." The prosecutors didn't entirely believe her, but they had bigger targets, and her testimony locked the case. 6 months later, Yoontae stood in a courtroom for sentencing. The judge read the charges, the evidence, The aggravating factors: 8 years imprisonment. Eligible for parole after 5. Yoon Tae showed no emotion. He was let out in handcuffs. Orange jumpsuit replacing tailored suits. Concrete cells replacing corner offices. On his way out, he passed a newspaper someone had left on a bench. Front page, Leanna's face. Headline, New Dawn, How One Woman Reclaimed Her Empire. He didn't stop to read it. Some endings you don't get to witness. Some consequences you just live with. Have you ever gambled everything and realized, too late, you never had a winning hand? 6 months later, Seoul City Plaza, 7 p.m. winter settling in with cold winds and early darkness. A massive digital screen, 3 stories tall, dominated the plaza's north wall. Advertisements cycled every 30 seconds. Luxury cars, designer brands, K-pop concerts. Then, a magazine cover, Seoul Business Weekly. Leanna's face filled the screen. Professional, composed, powerful. Headline, The Silent Architect, How Leanna Built and Reclaimed a $1 billion empire. Subheading, New Dawn Incorporated posts record profits under new leadership. I never wanted credit, Anna says. I just wanted what was mine. Crowd passed below. Some stopped to look. Most kept walking. The city moved like it always did, indifferent, relentless, forward. At street level, near a bus stop, a man stood watching the screen. Cheap coat, unshaven, hair longer than it used to be, graying at the temples. No cufflinks, no tailored suites, no cameras following his every move. Han Jin stared up at Anna's face. She looked different on that screen, stronger, like she'd finally stepped into light that had been waiting for her all along. He remembered Itaewon, the Pojamika stall, her explaining routes with diagrams on napkins. Her voice patient, brilliant, certain. He remembered the apartment, her coding through the night while he slept, building everything while he took credit. He remembered thinking he was the architect, the visionary, the one who mattered. He'd been wrong about everything. A bus pulled up, doors hissed open. Han Jin turned away from the screen. Boarded, paid with coins, sat in the back. Through the window, he watched Seoul blur past. The city he'd once believed he conquered. The city that had forgotten him the moment he stopped being useful. Nobody recognized him. Nobody stared. Nobody whispered. He was just another face, another passenger, another man who'd had something once and lost it. The bus rolled on. Meanwhile, in her office on the 38th floor, Anna finished reviewing quarterly projections. New Dawn Incorporated's revenue, up 23%. Client retention, highest in 5 years. Employee satisfaction, improved across every metric. She closed her laptop, looked out at the city. Somewhere down there, Han Jin existed, living whatever life he'd built from the ruins. She didn't think about him often anymore. Didn't need to. Some people spend their lives trying to be seen. Some people spend their lives being erased. Anna had done both. And now, she was neither invisible nor performing. She was just herself. Finally, completely. Her phone buzzed. Min Ji's text. Dinner reservation confirmed. 8 p.m. You're meeting the Singapore investors. Anna replied, on my way. She grabbed her coat, locked her office, took the private elevator down. Outside, the city glittered. Cold, beautiful, hers. Not because she conquered it, because she built it, line by line, system by system, year by year. And nobody could take that away again. The end.